There are moments when you ask yourself why your kindness drains you so deeply, why the more generous you become, the faster people walk away, why the things you give with complete sincerity turn into obligations others quietly expect from you. And when you stop even once, they look at you as if you were the one who betrayed them. You've paid in silence, yielded in silence, sacrificed in silence to preserve harmony, to avoid conflict, to keep alive relationships that were already fractured. And the quieter you became, the smaller you felt under the weight of expectations built on the assumption that you would always take the loss. You don't understand why until exhaustion hardens into a single question. Why does your kindness not earn respect, but contempt? What you haven't realized is that most of your generosity hasn't been born from strength, but from fear. The fear of being left behind, the fear of not being enough, the fear of losing connection if you stop giving. And this is where Machiavelli steps into the story, because he saw this mechanism 500 years ago, when he warned that liberality leads you to be despised and poverty follows. People do not respect kindness that weakens you, and they are never loyal to the one who sacrifices endlessly to preserve peace. They simply grow accustomed to the benefits you create for them. That is why today's video is titled, Never Be Generous. Machiavelli's warning on money, not to teach you selfishness, but to make you understand that money is not just a means of survival. It is a boundary, a position, a final line of defense protecting you from the endless expectations of others. And if you truly want to reclaim control, you must learn to use generosity as strategy, not as unconditional self-abandonment. In The Prince, Machiavelli makes it clear that any leader who tries to build their reputation on generosity alone will eventually destroy the very foundations of their power, because constant giving drains resources, and once those resources weaken, the same people who praise their open hand will turn away, accuse them, even resent them. Humans love to receive, but the brutal truth Machiavelli understood is this: they rarely respect the one who gives too much, because such behavior does not project majesty, it exposes vulnerability, and vulnerability in any structure of power breeds irritation, then distance, then disdain. This is not because human nature is inherently cruel. It is the predictable consequence of how we respond to benefits, habits, and our own sense of self-importance. When someone is always willing to sacrifice, they unintentionally devalue what they offer. The receiver no longer sees effort or meaning, they see convenience. And when that convenience stops, they feel deprived, not reminded of what was once given. Machiavelli understood that generosity without discipline is a trap. It convinces you that you are building affection, when in reality you are dismantling your own fortress brick by brick. And if that was true in the cunning politics of Renaissance Florence, then in the modern world, where people are driven by impulse and endless expectation, the destruction caused by uncontrolled generosity is even greater. So the question is not, how do I become more generous, but how do I use money without destroying my own power? Law 1. Generosity without limits is self-sabotage disguised as kindness. There is a truth most people never dare to face. Many acts of generosity you once believed were pure expressions of goodness were in reality desperate attempts to avoid rejection, to avoid disappointing others, to avoid confronting the fear that you are not valuable unless you are constantly giving. You call it kindness, responsibility, loyalty. But beneath these beautiful words is a quiet terror that if you stop, someone will leave you, judge you, or decide you are selfish. That fear pushes you to open your wallet, even when your finances are unstable, pushes you to say, "I've got it," when all you want to say is, "I'm tired," pushes you to maintain relationships where the cost is always paid by you. And the cruel twist is that this kind of generosity not only harms you, it reshapes how others see you, because humans do not respect what appears too easily and repeats too often. If you observe your life long enough, you'll see the moments you thought your kindness was building connection, when in reality it was quietly stripping bricks from your financial fortress and your psychological one. Paying for one meal is not the problem, but when those meals become expected, when people glance at you at the end of dinner waiting for you to pick up the bill, when gratitude fades into entitlement, when expectation replaces appreciation, that is the moment you are no longer generous. You are sustaining a dangerous illusion that sacrifice buys loyalty. In truth, all it buys is familiarity, and familiarity is always the first force that diminishes your value. This doesn't just happen in ordinary life. It happens everywhere, even at the highest levels of wealth and fame. Mike Tyson, one of the greatest fighters of all time, a man who once possessed hundreds of millions of dollars, is a living testament to the trap of uncontrolled generosity. He spent money to prove his largeness of heart, to maintain the image of the good friend, the generous brother, the man who could provide for everyone. He paid for houses, cars, parties, an entourage larger than a small company. But what he didn't understand was that limitless generosity does not create loyalty. It creates an ecosystem of parasites. When the money flowed, everyone stayed. When it stopped, they vanished as quickly as they arrived. Tyson didn't lose his fortune to luxury. He lost it because he used generosity to purchase presents from people who never intended to stay when the storm came. And when the fortress collapsed, the truth appeared. Unlimited generosity does not make people love you. It makes them treat you like a resource. And this is exactly what Machiavelli warned centuries ago. In The Prince, he analyzes with cold precision that the one who gives too freely will soon be despised, because excessive giving reveals two things. First, that your resources are being depleted. Second, that your motives are weak. When people sense that you give to be liked, to be kept, to be seen as good, they lose respect for you. They see your generosity as the easiest path to continue extracting benefits, and with every act of giving, you dig your own position lower in their eyes. You lose money, but the greater loss is respect. And once respect disappears, no amount of money can buy it back. The bitter truth is this: generosity is only powerful when it is limited, when it comes from fullness, not fear, when it builds value, not masks insecurity, when it is paired with standards, not used as emotional armor. Unlimited generosity is not goodness. It is self-destruction wrapped in virtue. A man who loses control of his generosity is no different from a ruler who opens the city gates to prove he is friendly. The world does not reward friendliness when it is rooted in weakness. The world simply walks through the open gate and takes what you were too naive to defend. Law 2. People forget kindness, but they never forget debt. Julius Caesar once spared the lives of men who had openly opposed him, not because he was a lover of mercy, but because he understood a principle every ruler eventually learns. Kindness lives only briefly in human memory, but debt clings to a person's mind like a shadow that never leaves. Caesar did not grant favors, he forged chains. He did not save men to be loved. He saved them so they could not immediately betray him, so that every time their eyes met, they were forced to remember that their lives hung on a scale whose beam he alone held. And because they were publicly indebted to him, Caesar never needed to demand loyalty. They were compelled to display it, at least until they found a force powerful enough to break the debt that bound them. From that story, you can see a truth Machiavelli analyzed with precision. Humans forget kindness far faster than you expect, because kindness makes them feel weak, lower, emotionally indebted. But a true debt, a timely, calibrated, context-specific intervention, does not create inferiority. It creates obligation. Obligation binds stronger than emotion, and it forces people to weigh every word, every action, every decision, no matter how small, so they do not disrupt the balance you established. Unconditional generosity creates gratitude, and gratitude fades as quickly as a polite thank you at the end of dinner. But generosity delivered at the decisive moment creates a different kind of power, the power born from the realization that without you, disaster would have struck. People forget what you did for them, but they never forget the fear they felt at that moment, nor the person who made that fear disappear. That is why Machiavelli saw gratitude as sand that scurries away with the slightest wind, while debt is stone placed in the exact right spot, hard to erase, hard to break, hard to forget. People forget your kindness not because they are morally corrupt, but because kindness, when constant, dissolves into the background. It becomes part of the environment, a presence with no impact. When you always help, they grow used to being helped. When you always give, their expectations shift. When you continue to sacrifice, kindness evolves into habit. And when you stop, they do not see the value of what you once provided. They only feel the loss, as if you took something that belonged to them. But when you help in pivotal moments, when they are about to lose everything, when they despair, when they hit bottom, your action does not dissolve into daily life. It becomes an engraving in their memory, a mark tied to the terror they never want to experience again. And because fear sharpens awareness more than gratitude ever can, debt becomes a far more potent weapon of power than goodwill. A man may forget the umbrella you held over him in the rain, but he will not forget the person who pulled him back from the cliff when every other door had closed. He may overlook the small things you once did for him, but he cannot overlook the one who holds his secret, his survival, his opportunity, anything whose absence once pushed him toward ruin. This is why Machiavelli never encouraged widespread generosity. He only encouraged timely generosity. The difference is not in the action, but in the strategy. A random act of kindness generates emotion. A well-timed act generates power. And power built on gratitude is fragile, but power built on obligation endures. Remember this: kindness invites forgetfulness. Debt invites caution. People may love you today and forget you tomorrow, but a well-placed debt forces them to think of you in every significant shift of their lives. Machiavelli believed that the one who tries to build influence through goodwill will fail, while the one who builds it through obligation will not be easily overthrown. And so if you want your kindness not to vanish into the empty space of human forgetfulness, stop creating meaningless goodwill and start understanding the value of debt. because that is what people truly never forget. Law 3. Generosity without boundaries breeds entitlement. After a few times paying the bill, a few times absorbing the difficult tasks, a few times covering the shortcomings of others as though it were your natural duty, the actions born from kindness slowly become standards in their eyes. What was once an exception becomes a default. What once required gratitude becomes an obligation. And the moment you pause even slightly, they no longer see you as the person who helped them. They see you as someone breaking a rule they believe you are required to maintain. Humans do not react to truth. They react to sensation. And the sensation of losing a perceived entitlement is always stronger than the sensation of being granted a favor. Therefore, they do not resent you because you stopped giving. They resent the loss of a benefit they believe they deserved, even though they never paid the price to earn it. When kindness lives without boundaries, it ceases to be kindness. It is swallowed whole by the habits of the receiver, and those habits will expand until you can no longer sustain them. Imagine a well in the desert. The first day the traveler discovers it, he feels grateful. His life is saved. In the days that follow, he returns, still appreciative. But as time passes, as the well becomes a familiar stop, he draws water without thinking of its value. He thinks only of his need. And when one day the well runs dry, his first complaint is not about the heat nor his lack of preparation. He complains that the well is no longer what it used to be, that it has betrayed him as if it were obligated to exist forever for his convenience. Your kindness is that well. If you constantly open it without any limit, you create a world where others treat your giving as a permanent resource, not a choice. In the power structures Machiavelli observed, he noted that humans are easily corrupted by convenience. When you give too much, they stop seeing the effort, they see only the outcome. When you help too often, the act no longer appears noble. It appears expected. And when you step out of that role, their reaction is not to question themselves, but to panic, because they do not know how to function without leaning on you. Resentment does not arise from a lack of kindness. It arises from the loss of privilege. A person softened by unlimited generosity will always believe you must continue as before, because they are more attached to the version of you that serves them than the version of you that truly exists. Machiavelli understood that anything offered without limit loses its value. A gift without boundaries ceases to be a gift. It becomes supply. And no one respects supply until it disappears. Thus, unrestricted generosity does not merely encourage dependency, it creates a sense of ownership. And when that sense is disrupted, the receiver interprets it not as your exhaustion, but as betrayal of the affection, duty, or role they assumed you owed them. Boundaries do not weaken your kindness, they preserve the value of it. Boundaries teach others that what they receive is your choice, not your obligation. And when your kindness returns to its rightful form, a deliberate act, not a habit, the receiver is forced to look at themselves instead of treating you like an infinite resource. Only then does generosity regain its true meaning, not a tool to buy approval, but a demonstration of strength from someone who knows when to give, to whom, and within which limits. Law 4. Never fund weakness, laziness, or chaos. If you hand money to someone who has no intention of changing, you are not helping them stand up. You are feeding the very pit they dug beneath their own feet. What you believe is support quietly turns into fuel for the weakness, lack of discipline, and chaos they have engineered in their own life. And the more you give, the more you reinforce their warped belief that they can always lean on you to escape any consequence they created. You cannot save someone who chooses to live inside their own disorder. You are merely soothing their guilt temporarily with your money, but chaos never feels gratitude toward the one who feeds it. It only learns to circle back and demand more the moment you show softness. In modern life, you see this clearly in the shape of that cousin who is always just a bit short to pay off a debt. The first time they call, you help because you think it is a small accident. The second time, you help because you assume they are in a rough phase. The third, fourth, fifth time, they call with urgency in their voice, with tragic stories, with reasons that sound plausible, and you keep showing up with promises and your wallet, acting as if you are the only barrier between them and total collapse. What you fail to see is that the collapse never came from bad luck. It came from habit, from mindset, from repeated choices. And with every time you open your arms, every time you reach for your money, every time you pay their debt for them, you are turning their chaos into a permanent weight on your back. What you call rescuing is, in reality, paying the bill for their lack of discipline. From Machiavelli's perspective, support has value only when the person receiving it takes at least one step toward order, and you merely provide the extra push to help them overcome the obstacle. But when they refuse to move, when they refuse to correct themselves, when they refuse to confront their own flaws, every helping hand you offer becomes nutrition for disorder. The undisciplined will treat your kindness as an insurance policy, a guarantee that they will always have an escape route, that consequences will never fully reach them, that their failures have a ready-made shoulder to collapse onto. And once they grow accustomed to this exit, they lose all incentive to change. Why learn responsibility when you carry it for them? Why face truth when you shield them from it? Why carve a new path when the path of leaning on you is always open? What is more brutal is this: people living in chaos rarely feel true gratitude toward the one who helps them the most. They do not feel grateful because they do not experience transformation. They experience ease, and that ease, easy to borrow, easy to be forgiven, easy to slip past accountability, teaches them that life always works this way, until you stop. When you stop, they will not see your exhaustion, your fatigue, the injustice you have silently carried. They will see only the inconvenience they must now face because the familiar path has closed. The undisciplined will label your stopping as betrayal, coldness, change, but they will never give their dependency its true name: laziness and irresponsibility. In Machiavellian philosophy, support is not the nurturing of bad habits. Support is only legitimate when it removes chaos, not when it pays interest on chaos. No one truly improves by dodging the lessons life is trying to force on them, and the more you use money to cover someone's lack of discipline, the longer you delay their return to order. You are not the savior in this story. You are the easily exploited resource. And Machiavelli would say that this not only weakens you, it erases you in their world. You no longer exist as a person, only as a tool. Helping once with conditions is more powerful than helping 10 times without them, because conditions are not stinginess, They are a reminder that the person must take a step out of their chaos before you pull them up. The one truly willing to change will never be offended by conditions. The one who lives off chaos will always see conditions as an insult. That difference is the only real measuring stick you need to know when to help and when to walk away. Kindness is only strong when it does not become fuel for weakness. Support only has value when it does not turn into an umbrella shielding those who repeatedly summon storms. And you only become truly influential when you understand that protecting others is never more important than protecting your own power, your own stability, and your own dignity. Law 5. Use generosity as a strategic test for loyalty. Sometimes the only way to discover who truly stands with you is not to keep giving people what they want, but to stop giving them anything at all. People do not reveal their nature while receiving. They reveal it when the stream of benefits runs dry. This is one of Machiavelli's coldest observations. There is no such thing as eternal loyalty, only alignment sustained by interest. And when interests shift, loyalty changes its color. That does not make people evil. It makes them predictable. And because of that, you must learn to use your own generosity as a quiet test, watching who remains when there is nothing left to gain. Imagine a brightly lit party where everyone smiles, raises their glass, and exchanges charming phrases. While the music plays and the food is served, you cannot tell who is there for you and who is there for the food, the music, the atmosphere. But if you suddenly turn off all the lights, the darkness will force everything to slow down, and you will see who is still standing beside you and who is quietly feeling their way toward the exit. Your generosity operates under the same principle. As long as you continue to give, everyone appears pleasant. The moment you pause, the silence exposes their true motives. In your own life, you have seen this more than once. There are people who appear only when you pay for the meal, when you take the hit to preserve harmony, when you open your heart and your wallet too easily. They are warm, not because they value you, but because they value the convenience you provide. When you withdraw the benefits, when you start drawing boundaries, when you refuse to keep playing the overly generous version of yourself, some people will drift away as if they had never received anything from you. They do not leave because you have done wrong. They leave because the only value they recognized in you no longer exists. What is difficult to accept, but crucial to understand, is this. Their departure is not betrayal, it is truth. It reveals that the relationship never truly rested on respect, but on advantage. You did not lose a friend. You lost an illusion of loyalty you had constructed in your own mind. By contrast, if someone remains when you have nothing left to offer, if their attitude stays the same, if they continue to care without tying your behavior to the convenience you once provided, that is a relationship worth investing in because it is not ruled by the flow of benefits. Machiavelli would say that this test requires no announcement, no confrontation, no explanation. You simply stop for a moment, stay silent, and observe. Those who leave were never really yours. Those who stay, even as a rare minority, are the ones you can trust in seasons of storm more than any oath or promise. Generosity is a gift, but only when you know when to close your hand. Because sometimes kindness does not reveal who deserves you. It is the absence of kindness that exposes who is truly here for you. Law 6. If your generosity is invisible, it gives you no leverage. There are things you do in silence, favors you extend that no one knows about, sacrifices you make without uttering a single complaint. You call it humility, you call it kindness, you call it emotional martyrdom. But in the world of power, invisible generosity does not create influence, it does not build position, and it does not command respect. A gift that is never acknowledged can never set a boundary. A sacrifice that is never defined can never become the foundation of a relationship. When your generosity disappears into the dark, the person receiving it does not feel the weight of obligation. They only feel the ease of continuing to receive more. Cesare Borgia understood this more clearly than anyone in the Renaissance. When he rewarded his knights, he did not do it behind closed doors. He did it in front of everyone. Not to boast and not to buy affection, but to construct a narrative. This gift has a purpose, and it is tied to the one who gave it. In politics, a public reward is not just recognition, it is a reminder. A gift does not merely transfer benefit, it transfers duty. And that duty only carries weight when both sides can see it. Cesare did not need to force anyone to swear loyalty. The gift did it for him. In modern life, many people make the opposite mistake. They help in silence for so long that the help itself becomes invisible. When you quietly pay off a relative's debt, quietly clean up the damage for your partner, quietly hold up a colleague so no one notices their failure, you tell yourself you are doing something noble. But that invisibility removes your action from the shared story. When everything happens in silence, the receiver does not see limits, context, or effort. They see only the outcome, and because they see only the outcome, they have no framework for respecting you. When you keep giving without ever reframing the story, you allow others to write their own version of reality, that you are always available, that you are always responsible, that you are always the one who will carry the weight. And when you can no longer carry it, they do not see your exhaustion, they see only the disruption in your behavior. This is why Machiavelli believed that generosity only has value when it is placed inside a structure. Not for the sake of bragging, but for the sake of clarity. Not to demand repayment, but to define what is happening. A strategic act of generosity always arrives with a subtle frame. I am helping this time, and this is an exception, not my duty. You do not need dramatic declarations. You only need the way you set boundaries. A favor that is never made clear will become the doorway to contempt. An exception that is never defined will quietly evolve into a new standard. And when that standard is not met, the first thing that appears is not understanding, but resentment. In Machiavelli's world, power lies not only in what you give, but in how you make others understand that what they receive did not appear by accident, but by your deliberate choice. If your generosity is not seen, it creates no influence. If it is not placed within boundaries, it creates no respect. If it is not defined, it simply speeds up the process of people forgetting your value. Strategic generosity is not about giving more. It is about giving in the right way, at the right time, with a story clear enough that no one can confuse kindness with obligation. And once you learn that, your help does not just carry more weight. It becomes a tool for building position without sacrificing your self-respect. Law 7. Money must protect your fortress, not buy peace. There are moments when you convince yourself you are using money to maintain harmony, to keep relationships stable, to make others feel cared for or respected. But beneath the surface, What you are really doing is avoiding a truth you are afraid to say out loud. Every time you pay the bill for someone else, every time you offer a gift to smooth over tension, every time you spend beyond your means because you fear disappointing someone, you are not buying peace. You are paying a fee to delay a collision that was always going to happen. In those moments, money stops being a tool for building your fortress. It becomes a thin shield you hold up whenever you are afraid of being hurt, afraid of facing the reality that someone's feelings toward you may not be deep enough without your wallet standing between you and them. In everyday life, this appears clearly in the image of a man who pays for everything in the relationship, from dinners, outings, and trips to covering costs that should have been shared. He is not necessarily generous because he truly wants to be. Often he is paying because he does not want to see his partner's irritation, does not want to hear a single complaint, does not want to touch a crack that has been sitting in the relationship for a long time. He believes money can flatten invisible distance, that generosity can fix deeper insecurity, that silence purchased with cash is better than real conflict. But the price of silence bought with money always arrives quickly. The day he stops, even for one ordinary meal, the relationship trembles. Not because he did something wrong, but because from the start it was never built on connection. It was built on economic benefit, and when the benefit stops flowing, the true structure of the relationship is instantly revealed. Machiavelli would say that money must never be used to hold together something that is already weak at its core. A ruler cannot maintain power through gifts alone. He must maintain it through respect, position, and clear boundaries. In the same way, you cannot keep peace in your private life by bribing emotions. True peace does not need to depend on money. If money is required to maintain it, what you are holding on to is not peace. It is surrender wrapped in politeness. That surrender does not protect you. It erodes your fortress from within, little by little, through small expenses that accumulate into a deep sense of lost worth. Money, in Machiavelli's logic, must act as a wall, protecting you from dependency, from unreasonable demands, from relationships where your energy is not reciprocated. When you use money to make someone stay, you are not keeping them. You are keeping the version of them that profits from your presence. The day you stop, they return to where they truly belong. This is not tragedy, it is revelation. And if you have the courage to face that truth, it frees you from the burden of sustaining relationships that stand only because you are afraid to let them fall. If you truly want to create peace, you must begin by building your fortress, stable finances, firm boundaries, and the ability to speak the truth, even when it makes people uncomfortable. Peace cannot be purchased. It must be claimed through self-respect. And whoever walks away when you no longer pay for everything was never part of your real journey. The one who stays is the one heavy enough to belong inside the fortress you are building. Machiavelli was never against generosity. He warned against a form of generosity that makes people soft, careless, and blind to the slow destruction of the fortress they are building out of their time, energy, and power. The money you give has never been just money. It is the bricks of your future, the position you construct piece by piece, the freedom you must protect instead of trading it away for temporary quiet. When a person gives out of fear, fear of losing connection, fear of being judged, fear of being alone, that generosity does not elevate them, it pulls them down, makes them easy to exploit, and fades them in the eyes of others. But when they give with strategy, with awareness, with the understanding that every act creates psychological leverage and social boundaries, that generosity turns into power, subtle, controlled, but impossible to ignore. So the question you must carry in your mind is not, how do I make them like me? Because human affection is as fragile as wind, shifting with benefits and timing. The real question is, how do I remain strong when they leave? Because that strength is the fortress that keeps you standing when those who once fed on your resources choose to walk out of your life. Feelings can change, gratitude can fade, but the fortress you build from discipline, boundaries, and self-respect will never betray you. From this moment on, do not let unconditional generosity become the reason you are disrespected or exploited. Let your deliberate generosity become a symbol of strength, forcing others to respect you, to think carefully before approaching you, and to understand that you do not give because you need to be loved. You give because you have mastered yourself. If this video has opened a new layer of awareness in you, hit like, share, and subscribe, not to support me, but to signal to the algorithm that you no longer belong to the crowd that lives by emotion. You are stepping into the tier of those who operate by strategy.